remembered some very important business in Hollywood. The pretty girl smiled and said, "I think I can arrange it." She did some fast paperwork, handed him back his envelope, and said, "You're on Flight 11, leaving at 4:10 this morning. Be sure to get back." "If only to see you smile again, Colleen," Malone promised. Pushing his way through the crowd toward the cab stand, he caught a glimpse of the red-hatted girl and scowled. What would Maggie, his secretary, be doing here? In a moment of rash generosity, he'd given her a week's vacation in Hollywood, and she would be out enjoying it. But there was no time to stop and find out, and knowing Maggie, he wasn't sure that he wanted to. He had enough worries already. The cab drove through the now rapidly lifting fog and deposited the little lawyer in front of one of the small apartment buildings that fringe Hollywood and Vine. "You might as well wait," Malone told the driver. He went through the cheaply ornate lobby and pushed a bell marked Faulkner. The girl who opened the door was small and perfect. Her almost red hair curled softly to her shoulders. Her bangs curled softly on her forehead. Her long-lashed gray eyes lighted as she recognized Malone. "You've decided to stay," she exclaimed, hurling a smile at him as she ushered him in. "I'm so glad. And you haven't met my brother Eric." She indicated a blond young man who was unfolding 6 feet of length from the sofa. "He came here when he heard about the trouble I'm in." "If you call inheriting $2 million trouble," Malone said. He nodded to the young man. "Delighted to meet you, Mr. Malone," the young man said, and let it go at that. "You thought of something new?" Mickey Faulkner asked anxiously. Malone said, "I came here to ask you the same question." "Mr. Rufus Cable was here," Mickey said. She frowned. "But it was only about the funeral arrangements. He was very fond of his aunt. He couldn't stay for it because he was called back on business." Malone frowned too. Rufus Cable. But he had been thousands of miles away at the time of Eva Cable's death, which had been pronounced natural anyway. A quarter hour of talking in what always seemed to be circles left them still spinning and getting nowhere. Mickey's mother and Eva Cable, then Eva Gay, had been close friends in their musical comedy days. Eva had married a fortune, had been widowed, and eventually had died, leaving Mickey a decidedly astonished heiress. Of her 2 nephews, Ed Cable had engaged Malone to investigate the will and the cause of death. Rufus Cable hadn't cared. But the feeling that something was wrong was even stronger now. He gave up at last and said a reluctant farewell at the door. "You'll come back, I hope," Mickey said, "especially if I need you to defend me." Malone scowled an unspoken question. "If they should have an inquest and decide Mrs. Cable didn't die naturally," Eric said, "they'll accuse Mickey of her murder." The little lawyer brooded over that all the way to the airport. Halfway across the lobby, he came to a momentary dead stop, then started again at a faster pace. Was the tall, gray-haired man just leaving the cigar counter Ed Cable? And if so, what was he doing here? Malone shoved frantically through the crowd. This would be a stroke of luck. He could wind up the whole business and collect his fee right now. At the moment that he saw the gray-haired man disappear through the doors of the ramp, Malone heard the loudspeaker call Flight 11. He headed for the ramp. There was no sign of the gray-haired man. Probably on his plane by now, Malone decided, and he hoped it also was Flight 11. He reached the gate just in time, getting an indignant look from the attendant as he passed through. There was no sign of Ed Cable or any other gray-haired man on board. Well, it was too late to get off now. Malone settled down, the stewardess sniffed thoughtfully at his breath, and promptly brought him a pillow. In spite of his weariness, the pillow, and the pleasant lullaby of the plane's motors, the little lawyer stayed awake, brooding. What would Ed Cable have been doing in Los Angeles, if it had been Ed Cable? On Eva's funeral, but that was tomorrow. Why hadn't he stayed? There was something infernally wrong with the whole situation, in spite of the verdict at the inquest, and the signature on the will being pronounced genuine by Clark Sellers himself. There was absolutely nothing to indicate anything wrong, but Malone knew in his heart that there was. Perhaps, he told himself, his feeling was due to his anxiety to collect that fee, and Ed Cable at the airport had been an illusion caused by the same reason. It was a consoling thought, and he began to doze, finally falling asleep just in time to be gently shaken by the stewardess. "We're coming into San Francisco, Mr. McNabb." Malone blinked at her. Poor girl, he thought. She must be as tired as he felt. Or maybe this was her first flight. He looked at his watch, 10 to 6. No wonder she was tired. It was a terrible time to be anywhere. He stumbled, half awake, into something between a mist and a drizzle. Mizzle would be the name for it, he decided. Objects were strange and unfamiliar in a light that threatened to turn to a gloomy gray any minute. Somehow he found his way to the airport office. Maggie rushed at him. "We can't talk here," she said in a fast whisper.